Because I was still empty and cold and numb and dead, really. I was dead inside, spiritually and emotionally. I hated that. So I turned to alcohol, drugs, sex, attempted suicide 13 times.
Welcome to the Figuring Life Out Together podcast. Today we're talking about bipolar disorder and speaking to Martina about her experiences and how ultimately she has experienced a great life change that has set her free from much of the deep depression and suicidal thoughts that she once experienced. I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of this. Let's go to that interview now. Well, Martina, your first podcast. Thanks for being brave enough. But we're here talking about mental health. Can you share with us your experience in this area? Yeah.
31 years ago, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. It's hereditary. My mother had it, and I think her mother may have had it, but I don't know how far back it went. From about the age of 6, I understand now that I suffered from depression, and I had depression. Well, that's all part of bipolar disorder. Bipolar, in the old days, it was called manic depression.
Okay.
So you have episodes of these extreme high moods and then extreme low moods. So most of my childhood was depression.
Right. Tell me just a little bit about your childhood. Did your parents observe or, take you to see anyone?
No.
So it was just normal for you? Did you realise something was wrong?
Yeah, I knew something was wrong because I didn't seem to be like other kids. So as a result, I isolated myself. I didn't make friends. I was a loner.
Yeah.
And I put all my time and effort into reading, studying, schoolwork and things. That was my escape then.
Yeah.
Later on, I used different things. It wasn't easy. It was between the ages of 16 and 15 that suicidation set in.
Really?
And I started wishing I could die.
Yeah.
And it was during those years when it was prayer to God wasn't answered that I started not believing there was a God.
Yeah.
That he didn't care about me and he didn't love me, because why was I like the way I was? And we weren't allowed to talk about it.
Did you have anyone that you could talk to?
No, because there was nobody we could go to in confidence that my parents wouldn't hear about from that person.
Right.
There was nothing.
And you wouldn't talk to your parents about this?
Oh, no, did it just be brushed off?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it just wouldn't be acknowledged.
Really? Why do you think that was?
What would people think if they had a daughter who had a mental illness?
Yeah.
They might be ostracised, It was all about appearances and presenting our family in one way to the public outside the home as being normal and stable, but behind closed doors it was...
Right, so you had to put on a bit of an act in public. Yep.
Oh, yeah, I wore a mask most of my life.
Yeah.
And what's the use of sharing or, trying to talk about what's inside you or what you're feeling when you were told you're just being stupid and ridiculous. So you just internalise everything.
Yep. So
and close down, really.
Suicidal thoughts, how did you deal with, what you're going through? What did you turn to?
No one.
No one.
How
did you cope?
Well, eventually I just stopped loving myself. I started hating myself. I just turned really, really negative. Was too frightened to let anybody see
Mm.
the real me.
Okay.
I became very timid and very shy,
Mm-hmm.
introverted.
Mm-hmm.
No trust in anybody or God. And I thought it was something, I thought God was punishing me.
Right.
I thought it was something in me that was bad or was wrong. Because the God I'd been taught about was a God of anger and retribution, and he punished you and disciplined you, and you had to earn his love. It was conditional love, and how can you live up to that?
So how long did you live like this?
Really, up until I turned 50.
Really?
Yeah, when I was saved. Yeah.
So what made you look for help and find help?
Well, during I had a lot of manic episodes.
Yeah.
Is when I became like really mad for God's sake. You know, I don't know why. When I was depressed,
Yeah.
I wasn't interested in anything. But for some reason, when I was manic, is when I looked to God, and when I turned to God to try and, I suppose I was feeling so good, I thought, oh, maybe I can find the answers now to what's, really wrong with me and how it can be fixed. It didn't.
Okay,
of
where did you
course.
look? How did you try and seek God in those times?
The Bible.
Yeah, so you'd read the Bible.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I was in my mid-30s the first time I read a Bible.
Yeah.
But after I got divorced, things were no better. I was still unwell. God brought Christian women into my life who started sharing with me about this God who was a loving God and a caring God and a forgiving God. And I remember thinking, well, that's not who I know.
Yeah.
I've never experienced that. I want what they've got. So I started looking more seriously into Bible, doing more Bible reading. I read it from front cover to cover, in about 2 months.
Yeah.
The first time
Yeah.
I bought a Bible, and realised that a lot of the teaching I'd grown up with didn't agree with what the Bible said, didn't agree with what these Christian mentors, I suppose, were telling me. So I started going to other Christian churches.
Yeah.
And I suppose very, very slowly things changed, but it was all in my head. What I was learning about God, it was all in my head. My heart was like a iceberg.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't know how to fix that.
Fix that, no.
And I was really surprised when he did fix it, but eventually. But yeah, so because I was still empty and cold and numb and dead, really, I was dead inside, spiritually and emotionally. I hated that. So I turned to alcohol, drugs, sex, attempted suicide 13 times. And they convinced me even more that God didn't love me and God didn't want me. It was pretty horrible.
Yeah, but these things that are happening, that's you're slowly seeking God during these times, but for some reason it's not
clicking.
not solving it for you, is it?
And even though during all this horrible time, I was still reading the Bible and I was still trying to find this God, this loving God.
You're doing the things you're meant to do.
Well, I was desperate.
Yeah.
I was desperate to be able to feel again. I wanted to live, really.
Yeah.
I didn't know what love was. I didn't understand. what love was.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what changed?
Well, in 2009, I was living up in Mackay and I came across this Christian ministry group, and all they did was healing and spiritual, emotional healing, and I found them in the phone book because one night I was on the verge of trying to hurt myself again, kill myself again. I was desperate and I was just flicking through the phone book and I just came across, I can't even remember what they were called now, Freedom House Ministries or something I think they were called, and just rang this phone number. And this was a Saturday night, and they said, well, we're meeting, where do you live? And I told them. They said, oh, we meet just around the corner in a hall. Do you want to come around? So I did.
Oh, it's amazing they picked up on a Saturday night.
They were at a party. The pastor answered his phone, and he couldn't. He said normally you'd ignore it, but he said he got this urge to answer the call, and through what he told me in that call was enough to keep me going until I met them the next morning at their fellowship.
Tell me about that.
And through them, we started with mental healing, but they really concentrated on spiritual and emotional and the breaking of soul ties. Soul ties.
Tell me.
Yeah, they're because of all the men I'd been involved with, there's this emotional bondage to them, really, an attachment to them, and it's like being chained to them. And that it's satanic.
Yeah.
And that has to be broken. So we went through.
Tell me just briefly, what were the steps that happened?
Well, I would have to name the person if I could remember who they were.
Yep. So this is in a group setting?
Yeah. All hands on prayer, all hands on.
Yep.
And I would name the person and they would break the power of that.
Connection,
damage, chain attachment, bondage.
Yeah.
That emotional and apparently it's a spiritual bondage as well to that
So they
person.
were praying as you were naming these attachments. Yeah.
Yeah, and praying over me in the spirit as well as in human prayer, normal prayer. Yeah. Yeah, and sort of that's where it started, and then I decided after all of this, and I started feeling improvement.
So you could see improvements. How many sessions? How many times?
Oh, I can't remember now.
But multiple.
Yeah. But there was a lot of work needed doing. But
so you could see some improvement.
Yeah, and they could too. And then I got baptised. I wanted to be baptised.
What did that mean to you at the time?
Well, that I finally believed in the real Jesus, what he did, that he died, and he did it for me. And I love where I've heard that if I'd have been the only person alive on the planet, he still would have died for me. I love that.
So what's the big difference between this Jesus that you'd encountered and the Jesus you'd grown up with?
Well, I never really heard much about him, except that at Easter he died on the cross and he rose again. But I didn't know anything about, that I'd be resurrected when I died, and salvation wasn't through what he did. Salvation was through works. And if you didn't, come up to scratch, well, God would punish you, and all sorts of things like that. So
is this healing process that revealed this to you? The reading the Bible, what was it?
Slowly, and what people were saying, going to church services. I went to a lot of Pentecostal type services that didn't have all the pomp and ceremony and the ritual and everything, because that's where I felt more comfortable. And because I was comfortable, I was able to hear the message better. Things were able to sink in. So in 2010, I had a horrific manic episode and a psychotic episode. I was completely... I have never had another one since. And it's really odd because I felt my heart break. It's really weird. I was sitting next to a nurse, and she said she thought she saw something fall into my lap from my chest, just fall down into my lap.
This nurse visibly... Yeah, right.
And she said to me, "What was that?" And I said to her, I mean, I saw it too, but I didn't know what it was. I thought it could have been a shadow or a bit of fluff or something.
Yeah.
But after that happened is when I started noticing real healing.
Right. Do you have any idea what that was now? Don't know.
Something
happened.
Something that was in me that was broken that fell out. I don't know. I've never
So it's a bit of a mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it was supernatural. So I was still in Mackay. I moved back to Moree in 2011, and no more alcohol, no more drugs, no more men. I decided just one day I woke up, and I'm going to stay on my medication. I'm going to start looking after myself. No
just
more.
Like that. Was that hard to stick to that decision?
With the alcohol and the drugs a little bit, because I still struggle with cravings, and those cravings tempted me. But I stuck to my guns because I wasn't doing it just for me. I was doing it for God. And then in 2013 is when I was really born again.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know, I heard something a song on the radio. I was listening to Christian radio. It was a message or a prayer or a song, I can't remember now. But I remember I just fell to my knees and acknowledged that I truly believed that God did love me for who I am now, for who I was before. He didn't care about any of that. He'd forgiven me. I was his child. He was my father. And I guess what I tell people is I stopped running from him, opened the door of my heart and welcomed him to move in.
Wow.
And then a lot more.
So once that happened, was that a bigger step?
Oh, that was, it was just amazing because as I felt all this heaviness and weight, lift off me, at the same time, I just felt this feeling of love and peace and joy, and I'd never felt that before. And I thought I'd been saved, but I hadn't been, obviously.
So this is a very interesting, long journey that you've started seeking, reading the Bible, but things are still going on. You've had this group healing experience, still things. You've made a decision to be baptized and commit yourself to Jesus, but you haven't yet had. And there's another experience which was probably you would describe as the pinnacle.
Yeah, because this time I felt my heart thaw. So
so it finally went from your head.
From there to here.
Yeah.
Because I had troubles with trust and I didn't like feeling vulnerable. And that he just broke that down gradually. But it was a very gradual process because I think there were years and years and years of the trauma and the hurt and everything I'd been through. And I don't know why it was gradual. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to cope with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the mental illness has considerably lessened.
Yes.
I
Something you
still
still deal
have
with?
depression. I
Yeah.
still do suffer periods of depression,
Mm-hmm.
but it's only about every couple of years now. It's only mild,
Yeah.
and it lasts, I think this is a short time for me, but
Yeah.
up to about 6 months. Whereas before, it was to the point where I tried to kill myself.
Mm.
And I just felt
Yeah.
absolutely no hope at all.
Right. So something that you've struggled with since you were 6,
Mhm.
your whole life, you've now come to a place where you describe it as mild.
Yeah,
So severe to
yeah,
mild,
yeah,
and you know the space of this is 30 years. You're saying,
yeah,
wow,
yeah. And, alcohol and drugs and men and sex, they were where I went to for my
yes,
escape and to numb myself more and get rid of the thoughts and the memories.
yeah,
I think once I decided that I wasn't going to use them anymore.
so you said that you stopped running. That was a form of running away,
Yes,
escaping.
yes, because I don't know, yeah,
Mm.
because I wasn't open to Jesus to work in me yet.
Mm.
Yeah, and when I got to the point where I understood.
Yep. Why do you think there's still that trace of
I don't
depression there?
know. It doesn't bother me though.
Mm.
Um, I still take medication. I
Mm-hmm.
won't stop taking that. But I'll tell you something interesting. Psychiatrists that I've seen when they ask me
Mm.
about my episodes,
Yep.
high and low. Apparently, it's normal for the manic episodes to decrease or stop as you get older.
Yeah.
But the depression usually becomes worse and worse and worse and worse. They're flabbergasted when I tell them that my depression is becoming less.
Really?
Yeah, and they can't explain it.
Wow.
And if they say, why do you think that, they say, that's not normal, you know. Why do you think that might be, Martina? And I just say to them, oh, well, maybe I'm not normal. Yeah,
So how
so,
would you sum up what Jesus has done? What does that look like?
well, he's given me a reason to live. He's given me a purpose.
What is that? What is that purpose?
Well, for me now, it's to teach the Bible.
Mm.
Um,
Is it that feeling of being loved and accepted that you never had?
oh, yeah, definitely. And I've learned what love is and how to love.
Mm.
But the first big thing was that I learned to love me
Yeah.
and accept me
Mm.
because God loved me and accepts me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said you were timid before. Has your relationship with other people changed?
I'm still a bit quite wary until I get to know you.
Yeah.
Once I get to know people,
Yeah.
and I relax and I can open up. But that's also I may hold back for a bit because a lot of people are a bit wary of mental illness.
Mm. Mm.
Things like schizophrenia and bipolar.
Yes.
There's a fear, which is where the stigma comes from
Mm.
because of ignorance and they don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very open in
Yep.
telling people I have bipolar disorder. And then it's up to them whether they want to keep their distance or but I give them the space.
Mm.
So I just observe really, I guess. Yeah, watch to see whether
Good on you,
they're going
Martina.
to think, oh, yeah, she's all right.
Yeah.
She doesn't look like she's got a mental illness.
Yeah.
I've been told that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, you don't look like you've got a mental illness.
So what do you think stopped you and stops others from considering, I guess, Christianity, Jesus as a solution to what they're going through?
Well, you don't believe that God will love you as you are.
Mm-hmm.
There's something wrong with you, and that's got to be fixed
Yeah.
first. If the medical people can't fix you, then you're broken. Nothing can fix you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of, not so much now, but back in the day, Christians were very judging of people with mental illness. I've been told that I needed to be exorcised because mental illness is caused by demon possession.
Mm-hmm.
If I never asked for healing prayer for it, but was often pressured into
Mm-hmm.
having healing prayer.
How was that experience where you were prayed for different to that feeling of being pressured? And
Well, I think it's because the usually the leaders or the prayer team in those churches, for me to be accepted as a member of that church, I had to be well.
Right.
There had to be nothing wrong with me. And because the healing always failed, and then it was my fault. I didn't have the faith. And that's not, I mean, I probably didn't have enough faith because I was a mess. But maybe they didn't either.
Yeah. So you needed to be accepted as you are before you're willing to have people try and help.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I've learned to trust God with everything and anything. Yeah, but I'm still learning to be safe and to trust people. Yeah, so it's coming.
It's coming. What would you say to somebody who thinks, I don't even believe in God, but your story sounds amazing, but I could explain it away? What would you say to someone like that?
Oh, well, my life was a train wreck before I accepted Jesus, you know, before I said yes. I could be dead now. I'm not. Why am I still here after 13 attempts? That has to be supernatural. And I've never come across a better psychiatrist than Jesus.
Really? Tell me what it's like, your relationship with Jesus now.
Well, he's my best friend. He walks by my side. He's just consumes me. He's just there all the time. Yeah, I can confide in him, you know. I find all my comfort in him. He speaks to me all the time, you know, through the number of verses that will just, I'll read in something and boop, this verse, you know, I'll hit you in the face and it just answers something straight away, you know, it meets a need.
So even reading the Bible is different for you now?
Oh, yeah, it makes sense now because I can see that God is love and he's, it's all love, you know. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story, Martina.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it.
That's all right, thanks.
Would you be open if anyone wanted to talk to you about your experience, if they're going through something similar?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I'd be happy to pray for anybody as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, to help them on their journey.
Great. How could people get in touch with you?
Do you want me to give my phone number out?
You can get in touch with us and I'll direct them your way. Oh, thanks, Martina, for sharing. If you'd like to get in contact with Martina, I'd encourage you to do so. Visit haventogether.com. Email me at tom@haventogether.com, and it'd be great to get you in touch with her. Otherwise, you can drop a comment. Let Martina know what you were impacted by, any questions you have for Martina. That'd be great. If you enjoyed this episode, I spoke with Caitlin recently about her struggles with being a family member of somebody with mental illness and how that affected her. Another great listen to go along with this one. Otherwise, hope you can join us again for the Figuring Life Out Together podcast.